The Outlaws Trinity. Luck, skill, and just a dose of stupidity.
Hello cyberspace. Bitstream Cowboy coming to you from my network node just outside of Hollywood, in sunny Los Angeles. Today I'm bringing you some video clips of Rockstar's latest marvel, Red Dead Redemption 2. Released just a few short weeks ago, Red Dead Redemption 2 has sold over 17 million copies in 8 days, and has raised a great deal of buzz. People are seriously discussing it as the game of the decade. I very rarely pre-order games, but I had great confidence in Rockstar's ability to create great gaming experiences. The previous title in the franchise, Red Dead Redemption, with John Marston as the protagonist, was my all-time favorite video game. Roaming the virtual plains, horseback, in Red Dead Redemption, was the inspiration behind my hacker handle, Bitstream Cowboy. I owe that game, which gave me a fabulous brand, much. With all of the advances in development in the past 9 years since John Marston's adventures, I went in, fully expecting a greater experience. I pre-ordered the deluxe version the day it went on sale. It was really important to me to have this prequel downloaded and installed for the moment it went live. Red Dead Redemption is a true visual delight, especially on Microsoft's Xbox One X console. More than one person has commented that Red Dead Redemption 2 justifies the purchase of the Xbox One X, and for me personally, gave me much pride in Microsoft. I've been a video gamer since its inception, with the release of Pong, 44 years ago. Red Dead Redemption 2 was such an amazing experience, that it has become the highlight of my life as a gamer, so far. Many gamers mirror this same sentiment, because of the level of detail Rockstar put into the development of this achievement. There are detailed animations for every action Arthur Morgan, the star of this western, makes. The open world is the largest, most detailed environment thus far, in any video game. Everything, from the dynamic cloud cover, to the insane draw distances, says, labor of love. With 200 species of animals, and horse husbandry as a skill, just the animal mechanics, alone, is a benchmark. And this game is a benchmark, setting the standard for open-world gaming for years to come. Red Dead Redemption 2 is the new standard to which all games in the future will have to live up to. I agree on the consensus with this title, regarding Red Dead Redemption 2 a near 10. My only criticism with this game is that it has slightly wonky controls. Sometimes you have to make several passes at a table, or an animal carcass, for example, before you can focus on your subject. There were a few issues with bugs, but relatively few, compared to most releases. That being said, Rockstar did an exemplary job developing this massive title. I highly recommend Red Dead Redemption 2 to anyone, especially those who are into gaming solo. Rockstar games take a long time before they are discounted, so I say, don't bother to wait. Red Dead Redemption 2 is a game that's definitely worth its value. Don't wait on this title for a sale. Get on the bandwagon while it's still fresh. That's it for my recommendations for Red Dead Redemption 2. I wanted to use the rest of the time on this video to discuss a personal message with you, that's very dear to my heart, and that is, the nature of spirituality. Last night, in Thousand Oaks, not an hour from where I live, a crazed gunman opened fire, and murdered 12 people. A very sad, and sobering thing. Like my father who adopted me, the killer was a former U.S. Marine. Having a father who battled in Korea and Vietnam, I have some sympathy for the gunman. My father was a very faithful and dedicated soldier, who raised me by the standards set by the military. He honed my mind, by engaging me in Buddhism since I was 5, and hardening my body with karate since 10. He gave me my strong sense of honor and discipline, by which my peers know me. It came at the price of a common childhood, as I was always, the little adult. He never discussed his experiences in the wars with me, but I know my father had ended lives in the fulfillment of his duty to this country. And there were many times in my childhood, that I thought he would kill me, if I didn't display obedience. The life of a soldier, especially a blooded one, cannot be conceived by anyone other than another veteran. I cannot judge that gunman. I can only hang my head in pity, because we, society, had failed him. I am not your average, modern American. I am a naturalized immigrant, who grew up grateful for the values established by the founding fathers of this awesome nation. For me, it is a great honor to have had the fortune to live in a country based on freedom and solidarity. The people of my native nation, Japan, live such rigid and restricted lives, in comparison to what we are used to here in the States. Growing up in the military meant travel, and with it, a long trail of goodbyes. I had no siblings, so everything in my family centered around me. Both of my parents came from a generation that was prone to physical and emotional abusiveness, in the name of discipline. Both had seen war, firsthand, in childhood. They were the best of providers, and loved me more than life, but neither practiced good psychology. Like many of my generation, in post-war Okinawa, I was born without a father. My mother abandoned me to my great-aunt, at 2, who died after a battle with cancer, when I was 4. For the year between then and when I was adopted at 5, I had been shuffled through several households. Because I had mixed blood, I was the subject of much ridicule and bigotry. Being beaten by neighborhood bullies and stoned by gangs of kids was everyday fact. In Japan, the nail that stands up gets hammered. My father saved me from a life of hell. But it was far from happily ever after since then. I was just as much as an alien to the kids in America when we traveled. I grew up looking in from the outside of two cultures. No man in two worlds. Constantly traveling and having no siblings to ease the loneliness, I spent much of my childhood in a traumatic state of stress. This made me very introspective and self-conscious. Growing up in Buddhism, I meditated often on the reasons for suffering, very in the footsteps of the Enlightened One. I grew up very grateful for any attention I got, and was very much of a people pleaser. I had a good nature that always impressed the leaders in my life, though. And that has always been my saving grace. When I was 19, I suffered a psychotic episode. I was diagnosed as schizophrenic. I dropped out of life for many years after, my hands full, battling with mental illness. I worked jobs and did well to hide it on the outside, but inside, I was checked out. By the time I was 20, I couldn't be content staying in one place for any length of time. I remembered a time of great peacefulness in my childhood, in the temples of Japan. I began seeking the life of a monk. I entered the priesthood and started my life as a missionary. I've spent almost my entire adult life, over 35 years, formally engaged in intense study, spiritual cultivation, and humble service to society. 25 of those years were spent within the hallowed walls of temples, living amongst saints. I have lived a most adventurous and mystical life. So, I come now to my message behind this video. As we are playing Arthur Morgan, a desperado that lives and dies by the gun, as we have the luxury to spend time on such things as video games, let us appreciate. Spiritual practice doesn't even begin until we first pay homage to the source of creation. It is through gratitude and empathy that we, first, gain an inkling of what it means to be divine. If we are ill-tempered and wasting the gift of life with self-centered pettiness, we will surely be in a state of unhappiness and unrest. The easiest way to earn compassion is to give it. And the easiest way to happiness is to simply choose it. The simplest way to show love to God is to show love to even the littlest of creatures. Remember, we are one. Gods love everyone. Thank you.
You owe me money.